I'm Stefan Lombard with Hagerty. Today I'm here with this 1969 Chevrolet Camaro SS396. It was the third year of the first generation of Camaro. Today we're going to talk a little bit about what you should be looking for if you're in the market to buy one. The Camaro was Chevy's response to the Mustang, taking just 2 years from design to production. And between September 1966 and November 1969, 700,000 Camaros hit the road. These first generation Camaros came in two different body styles, a two-door hardtop coupe and a two-door convertible. And they were available from mild to wild, really however you wanted to spec them. And there were dozens and dozens of options available. Really mundane things like clocks and deluxe seat belts, some really rare stuff like a fold-down rear seat and a front bench seat, and some really neat factory stuff like headers and four-wheel disc brakes in the JL8 package. When we're talking about first-generation Camaros, we need to talk about paperwork and documentation, because unfortunately, GM records aren't the greatest. So it can be hard to tell if the car that you're looking at came that way from the factory. It's not uncommon to find a SS396 big block car that was originally a six-cylinder car, because all the parts are available to build your own SS car if you want to. And one of the best things you can do if you're looking at a first-generation Camaro is either have a mark expert with you or take it to a mark expert for a thorough pre-purchase inspection. They can get it on a lift, they can look at all the codes that are imprinted on the car and give you an idea of whether the car you're looking at is the actual car you think it is. If you're lucky and the car you're looking at has its original protective plate, you're in business, because that protective plate was imprinted with lots of valuable information from the factory: original owner, VIN, carburetor information, axle information, assembly dates, all that stuff which is valuable in making sure that the car you're buying is authentic. In addition to the dozens of options you could spec on your Camaro, there are also some special packages. The Camaro paced the Indy 500 in 1967 and 69, and so there are Indy 500 replica packages. Additionally, the RS or Rally Sport package was an appearance package, and it included things like RS badging, hideaway headlights, special stripes, body moldings, and front parking lights and rear tail lights, which were mounted below the bumpers. Now, beyond the RS appearance package, there was a performance package called the SS, or Super Sport. But what that got you was unique badging, a special hood, a sport suspension, and bigger engines, either a 350 V8 or a big block 396 in various outputs from 325 to 375 horsepower. Top dog in the regular production Camaro world was the Z28. This was a high-performance, high-revving machine that made it a 327 cubic inch block with a 283 crank, and the yield was 302 cubic inches, perfect for Trans Am racing. It also included 15-inch wheels, a sport suspension, unique exhaust, and quick ratio steering. Now, beyond the Z28, there are the ultra-rare Copo cars. These were 427 big blocks that put out 425 horsepower, or in the case of the ZL1 Copo cars, it was an all-aluminum engine putting out 430 horsepower. No matter what engine's under hood, whether it's the smallest six-cylinder, a 327 or 350 small block, or a big block, what you're looking for is kind of the same. The condition of the belts, the hoses. You want to squeeze all this stuff and just check the vitality of all that rubber. Your plug wires, you want to pull the dipstick. Check the condition of the oil. Is there water in it? That's a problem. You want to check the motor mounts, because those might need to be replaced. In general, all the engines that came in these cars from GM were pretty stout. And if you do need to do any major mechanical work to them, it's not going to be that expensive, and it's not that difficult. They're incredibly popular, and there's a huge aftermarket supply out there. And you can pretty much buy everything you need to build an entire first-generation Camaro. And you can get them in just about every flavor you can imagine, from a base 230 cubic inch inline six to a monstrous 396 cubic inch 375 horsepower beast. The Camaro was all about options. It was all about giving buyers a choice on how they wanted to spec their car and make it completely unique to their personal tastes. These cars were never going to be the kind of handler that, say, a second-generation Corvette was, and they weren't supposed to be. They were pretty bare bones in the suspension department. Up front you had upper and lower A-arms, coil springs, tube shocks, and an anti-roll bar. And in the SS cars, the springs and shocks were upgraded a little bit. And in the back was a leaf spring setup And in the earliest cars, the 67s, it was a monoleaf, which if pushed would lead to some axle bind and wheel hop, not necessarily a favorable thing. So Chevy revised that late in the 67 run to a multi-leaf setup, and that's typically what you'll find on the bulk of the cars. The basic principle is that all the cars that came with a 12-bolt rear axle had a multi-leaf spring setup, but the cars with the 10-bolt axles typically will be the monoleaf setup. When you're out test driving one of these first-gen Camaros, as with any car, you want to make sure that it does everything that it's supposed to. So you want to listen to the engine. You hear any knocking in the bottom end, valve noise in the top, any hisses, any squeaks, any vibrations, rattles, that sort of thing. Try and find out where they're coming from. Could just be a loose piece of trim. And beyond that, you want to test everything. All the buttons and gauges and knobs and whatever there is, turn them on, flip them. Make sure everything works. The standard braking on these cars was manual drums on all four wheels. Not exactly high tech, but you could upgrade that to discs in the front, powered or unpowered, and power disc brakes are a nice thing. And there was also a four-wheel disc brake option, which most of these cars do not have. But if you find one that has it, it's a rare option. It adds value to the car. In terms of options for how your Camaro went down the road, you had a lot of choices for rear axle gearing. 331 rear end was kind of standard on the small block cars. There was some economy gearing for your base cars, 273, 256 gearing, but that's no fun. But optional gearing was 307, 355, 373, and if you really want to have some fun, you can get 410 gearing, 456, 488, and those three all required positive traction limited slip rear end for good reason. For a long time, there was a huge debate over what the word Camaro meant. And eventually, GM executives came clean, said they just liked the sound of it. And let's face it, who doesn't like the sound of this?